This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. Well, hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be back with you today with an amazing guest. I'm really excited about having Karen Knotts here. And we are going to get right to our interview and even tell you how we met. That was just so much fun, the daughter of Don Knotts. To remind you, there's a couple as this comes out. My book is here. The Summit. So you want to make sure it's a great gift book. A lot of wonderful reviews on that. And Karen has one as well. We will make sure we have all of that. I write an article with every single episode as well. Hero Mountain Summit. If you go to heromountainsummit.com, it's a 5-month program, individual and a partner program. And you must apply. I take people by application only. So just to make sure you look over that, it's a great program. I only offer that individually for twice a year. So anyway, that's enough advertisements because I love to get to the meat of this. And Karen, hello. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Deborah. It's great to see you again.
And it's so, Zoom has just opened up our eyes here.
Vistas.
Yes, our vistas. And you have made me laugh for a long time because we met at a a performing arts conference and became roommates there.
We
APAP.
did.
Yes. The one that was a national one back in New York, and just had a great time. What are some of your memories from that time, Karen?
Well, I was scared to death. I had developed my show, Tied Up in Knots, and I didn't know how to get bookings. And I had started out in New York where they have the big mama of them all, the APAP conference. And that was actually an international one.
Yes.
And my little show, I had my poster of my dad, in his Barney Fife outfit on up there. And people were just constantly passing me by day after day. And a couple of people said, you should really be doing the Arts Midwest conference where they do the show, they book shows for the Midwest. So I went there. And then before that, I met you in New York there. That's
yes.
right.
Yes.
And yeah, that was my very first one. And then how did we hook up as roommates? I've forgotten that.
I might have put the notice out that I had, room I had already reserved a room. And so sometimes, they'll help us meet each other. And we were both from California.
Right, which is funny that we met in New York.
We met in New York. And you had that big poster you were trying to put up. It was a life size. Wasn't it a life size of your...
Not quite, but it was pretty big. They wouldn't let you put a life size one up there. It was big.
I remember you going, okay, so where should I put this? And then we had another agent that was right by us it was Robert G. Wald, that he had a great strategy. He would sit right in the front of the restrooms and he would be able to grab presenters as they were coming in and out of the restrooms. It worked for him. He's been an agent for a very, very long time. I don't think
that would have worked for us, though.
No, it wouldn't have not worked for us. It was just so funny.
Out there in front of the men's room. Let me tell you about Don Knotts before you go in there.
I know. Yeah. So it was pretty funny. So, but that was great, and we just kind of kept up this friendship now and then to be able to communicate, and it's just I'm so excited because you now have this book out, and we've talked about that for a while of just, you need to really tell this story completely, and putting a book out is no easy task. So, but I want you to give a little background because you have quite the background of even being on movie sets with your dad. We may have some listeners that don't even really know who your dad was.
Oh, yeah.
When there's a younger generation, as we know, that's why the Midwest was such a great fit for you because, a lot of those people will know, Barney Fife and the whole thing. So give us a little information about you being on set and all of that, Karen.
Well, I wanted to go on the set of the Andy Griffith Show, right away. But my dad was waiting for us to have a vacation from school because he didn't want to miss school. My brother was 3 years younger. So we went. I was so excited the first day. And we walked in and I just couldn't believe how phony everything was, On TV, it looks real. You believe all those shops. You believe those pedestrians walking in and out and going downtown. But then we walked in and I remember seeing a cardboard cutout of the police car, the squad car. It was like a flat, just cutout, it was sort of sitting there inside the soundstage. And I found out later that the first AD, Bruce Bilson, who I've interviewed in my book, it was his idea to come up with that cardboard cutout because when they had to raise the doorway to the soundstage to get that squad car in and out, and that caused problems. So he had the idea to make that cardboard cutout, and I guess it was an innovation at the time for them to do that. I don't know. And then they had, the little dressing rooms, little against the wall of it was very small. Everything was very small. Everything was compacted in there, and got to go in the makeup room, and Lee Greenway was this beloved makeup man that my dad and Andy loved. He was especially close to Andy. Lee was a Southerner as well. And he had all kinds of funny stories, and he was a skeet shooter and a horse trader. My dad and I talk about that in the book, and I didn't know what a horse trader was. And I thought he really traded horses. And my dad said, no, that's somebody who likes to make deals. So it was just a really lot of fun on that set. Everybody was, but it was professional. It was efficient. It was professional. There was a lot of laughter, especially in the scenes with my dad and Andy. And, but there was also this sense of fun.
Oh, well, and that's what happened when you watched those shows was fun. I mean, they were selling that fun and laughter, and it was really a down home, innocent and just really a fun time. And now, I mean, those are just classics. To watch those are just they're really classics. So, but that's fun that you got to go, and especially I think as a kid, going, the makeup and seeing all the sets and really realizing it's such a facade, and how that looks on a camera. And I mean, a lot of people live their lives that way too, with this facade. It's quite a life principle there, but it's just kind of interesting how they can make something look so real. That's really fun about the police car. So
yeah, it was an eye opener, you know, to me. And then I always still enjoyed watching the show. We watched it as a family and with my dad and mom, and my brother was too young, and there was this thing. They had strict bedtimes for us, and there was this constant battle going on between the show and the network. They wanted the network to put the show on earlier so little kids could stay up and watch, but they always lost that battle. So my brother didn't get to see a lot of those shows until he grew up. And then,
because there was no video. There was no saving your shows and you couldn't watch them later. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's right.
Such a different time we are in. Isn't that something?
It is. It's like hard to believe what we have now as opposed to then. We had... but it's interesting for me to think about that. My dad became so famous and so well known because there were only 7 channels, and everybody watched the same shows. You had no choice. There were no other choices. Now there's like so many streaming platforms, and an actor can be really beloved on a show and only known to a certain segment of the population. So even though there are more opportunities to get on shows, there's fewer opportunities for people to actually see them because there's just so many choices.
That is a great point. And that's very true with almost any business right now, too. It's how do you cut through and how do you make a statement? That's why your branding and what you're known for is just so important. And you just really have to be yourself. You don't need to be a copycat. So, and you are unique, Karen.
So are you. We both are. We're both unique people.
And coming from the arts, I mean, you just really see how that's important, to create, because, I was doing the Andrew Lloyd Webber and the Gershwin shows, and there's a lot of those people that are doing it. And as you look at it, you go, but mine's different. How you've got to cut through and say, how is it different? All of that. So, anyway, and kind of interesting too that your dad really kind of discouraged you as a child in going through, and we hear about this a lot
Yeah.
with them not wanting their kids to go into acting and go into show business, as they said. So, but that kind of changed. What happened there in
Well,
that?
I mean, it was always difficult for him that I wanted to be an actress because, it's so hard to break into business. And he had this extraordinary gift. And he also came along at a time when his gift really fit in with what was needed.
Yes.
With the Steve Allen show, he had this nervous guy character, and this was live television in New York, and he got connected to the show through Bill Dana, who was a very well-known writer and actor at that time period, and Bill was like a main producer on that show, and Bill had seen him on the Imogene Coca show, which was a short run show, and brought him in to meet Steve Allen, and Steve put him right away on his show, which became one of the top hits. It was literally the Saturday Night Live of its day.
Wow.
And very, very consistently funny. But it was difficult for him because he never got to see the shows. They were live.
Oh,
so,
that's true.
Yeah, he sweated out every one. He was such a perfectionist. He wanted everything to be perfect, and he would stay up. He would lie awake all night the night before the show, trying to think of something even funnier. Wanted to make sure that it would be just screamingly funny. And then he never got to see it.
That's another great point. Is that he was always trying to improve and sharpen his craft. A lot of people think, I'm okay. Well, this is going to get by. This is, I've been listening to some podcasts now on story writing and all of that, and just to get better at it. You feel like you get to one point, and then that's a launching point for the next point or next projects, and all of that. And music's the same way. Albums are the same way, that we feel like we just grow through each one of those. And if we don't, we're kind of defeating, our own purpose and hindering our own growth, definitely, to be open to that. So, yeah, that's neat, though. And then he ended up supporting you, saying yes.
Well, he saw that I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to stop. I was just, he understood the drive to do it.
Yeah.
And then so he actually had me on, and this is something people don't know. He had a variety show, his own variety show.
Wow.
In 1972, I think it was 71 or 72. And he put me on the show. I was 16. And
now, can people look that up on YouTube? Is it anywhere, or you probably don't know?
No, but I have it. I'm going to be putting it on my website pretty soon, which is KarenKnotts.com.
Good. We'll make sure the links are all in the article so you can get right to see. But that would be great. That would be very interesting to look back at that time. Isn't that something? So how long was his variety show? How long did that go?
Not long. It was not successful. It was one of the very few things he did that didn't make it because he didn't have that host persona. He wasn't comfortable. I think he did have, but he just wasn't comfortable with it. He always wanted to be a character and kind of hide behind a character or immerse himself in a character. But and I think that he just was so tense worried about that. But if he just let his own personality come through, I think it would have been a lot better in that case. But it was, he was on dozens of variety shows as a guest, and he was always funny on those shows.
That's great.
Tommy Smothers, the Smothers Brothers show. They had so many variety shows.
Wow.
It was incredible how many variety shows they had in those days.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. So, and it's just to hold your own show and to be the host. It does take some work, and it takes different skills, a different mindset, actually. Now you became a SAG and an I can never to say that
sag-aftra.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, now it's just all one.
It's all one. That's right.
Put that splash in between anymore. Right?
Yeah, and it's like I got to say those both together. What was that process for you in becoming that?
Well, for me, it was purely accidental because I was just about 18 years old. I got on the show, and it was I was at an event at USC where I was going to college, and Ed Asner was hosting this uh, uh, conference sort of thing they had in the Bovard Auditorium, and they had like a lot of people from the college and some other outside people came in, and so Ed was introducing my dad. I was sitting in the audience, and all of a sudden he goes, "And Don's daughter Karen is a student here," and he goes, "Karen, stand up and let us see what Don has done." And I was like,
Oh no.
I was completely surprised, and I had this hippie outfit on, which I wore a lot in those days.
We remember those years. That dates us, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's crazy. But I had on a hippie hat, which was like a broad brimmed brown felt hat, very big wide hat, and just, the rest of the garb. And I stood up, took a bow, and sat right back down again. And then that night, my dad got a call from an agent asking for me.
Wow.
And saying, that this role that he had cast on was this casting director, rather, that he had cast, the woman ducked out at the last minute, and she was playing the part of this hippie. They needed to replace her like fast. Wow. And he said that your daughter looks the part. Could she come in for an audition?
Oh, that's so great. And you had no idea, of course.
And so for all of us actors, that is a good lesson on how important it is to look the part.
Yes.
Right? To getting it,
Yeah, because a lot of times that's almost more important. When you walk into a room, mm-hmm. they can do retakes on your dialogue a number of times, but you have to have that sort of look too, and sort of mannerisms. So well, that's pretty fun. That was the hippie outfit.
It was the hippie outfit that got me the part. So then from there, all I had to do was they got me into SAG.
Yeah. As soon as you got
that
your
way,
first, it's kind of the break in. But the nice thing is that you still worked at that. It wasn't just that, Dad, can you line up these connections? It was kind of an organic, way of
just
it.
Completely accidental.
Yeah.
And which is the part was a very demanding part too, because I had to. It's about this hippie hitchhiker that is picked up by a man driving, and she gets in the car, and then he gets into an accident, slams on the brakes, and I had to go through a car windshield.
Oh, gosh.
What? I'm thinking, no wonder the other actress
bowed out. That is funny. Isn't that something?
That was really something.
That's so great. Now you write as well, mm-hmm. And you've done this Tied Up in Knots. I mean, ever since I've known you, that was the show I knew that you were doing, but I wasn't aware of some of your other work. What kind of other things do you actually write? You've written.
Well, I've written a couple of plays.
Okay.
Like full-length plays, and then I've written some short plays and sketches and things. And I also wrote a pilot or two for TV.
Okay.
And now with this book, can I show you the book?
Of course you can. Your camera is moving all over the place.
Everybody can follow.
I know. If they follow you, I might be the one on the screen if people get a little dizzy.
Okay, I'm sure that really.
As soon as you are still again, but it really shows your personality, Karen, because you have this kind of a winsome, fun personality. I mean, even the first time we met, we were just talking right before I put on that we had gone to the M&M store, and you came back, and I came back into the room, and on my bed was an M&M keychain with like the characters on it, and it was so Karen. You just.
I remember fun. You laughed at that.
I did, and I kept it for years. Finally, I thought, I'm keeping it as a memory, but Right. Okay, so your camera will be right on you, so you can show us your book now that you have just come out with, right?
Yeah, this is the book, Tied Up in Knots.
Oh, great. And I've been meaning to, I wanted to be able to read it before this. I have not, but I am going to definitely. And so much fun. And tell us a little bit about the process of writing that then, because that's you've written your screenplays, you've done all of those, and your solo show, but writing the book.
Yeah, it was really an interesting process, and
Yeah.
it was scary. I
Yeah.
mean, for many years, people have asking me to write a book about my dad, and I had no interest in that. I was like, "What for? Why should I do that?" you know. So I didn't do it. But then, about 10 years ago, I started to get the idea that maybe this is something I should think about, because a lot of people who knew my dad were passing away,
Yes.
and there was I realized that window was closing. So I started interviewing people at that point. I never even went to my dad's hometown in Morgantown, West Virginia, and I put the word out on the radio that I was looking for people who knew some stories about my dad. And at this point, this would have been second generation. It would have been my generation that had the stories, because their parents were gone now and they told them the stories. So these people came out and they had some really cool stories, some of them. So I put them all in the book. So my book is kind of a combination of interviews and a narrative with a lot of funny stories in it, mixed in.
Well, I would not doubt that there's funny stories, because you have that sort of natural giftedness. Now, when you were first starting in your show, you explain a little bit of this with the Tied Up in Knots and how we were at APAP and the conference, and that's a huge conference for anyone.
It's huge.
It's huge, and a lot of showcases, a lot of booths, and all of that. But you were just starting out, and how has that show evolved for you through the years? Oh, there you go.
My agent is calling me.
Yes, I know. Well, we are, these interviews always are full of fun, and especially this one with Karen. So how has that show then, because this is interesting in developing an actual stage show and how things develop, because a lot of that is rehearsal, doing it and feeling, like you said, like your dad would lay awake at night going, oh, there's something I can do better. So how has that progressed for you and your process?
Well, the Mayberry Days Festival is really critical to that. I have to really thank Tanya Jones, who runs that. The Mayberry Days Festival, for people who don't know, is a yearly annual festival for the fans of the Andy Griffith Show. And it's been going on since the 1990s, and it's just grown, and it's gotten huge now. And so the director, Tanya Jones, asked me if I would like to do my show. And I said, okay. And I was really nervous because I hadn't really done it before at anybody. I think it was my very first show. And Betty Lynn, who played Thelma Lou, introduced me to the audience. And I had a lot of slides. And so my concern about the show was giving fans what they wanted, along with talking about my dad as I knew him as a person. And so I was really scared that people wouldn't be interested in him as a person part, but I was wrong. They really were. So, but it was combining the two elements, talking about the Andy Griffith Show and showing a lot of slides of that, and giving people that they long for all the time, and then also talking about my relationship with my dad. So it really, really like balanced those two things. His character work with his personality, person work.
Yeah, that's fascinating. People want to know those behind the scenes, and they want to get to know that. Was that a real person, or what really, how was it? And also, what kind of home life and everything else did you have? I mean, were you always on the road? There's just so much mystery behind this. And you walk on the TV set and you see, oh, it's all, this is just all fronts and fake and all of this. But for people watching those shows, it was real. They were in plays. So, and that's what we try to create too in our shows and our programs. We want something that's real, especially now. And so they saw real in you. So that's actually really fun. That was, and that also probably gave you a huge launching point of your show.
It did. Well, that combined with the conferences that we were doing,
Right.
Which I did then go to the Midwest after that.
Good.
So I didn't get
Good.
to see you anymore.
I know we weren't
You
roommates anymore.
you stayed with APAP,
I know I
but
did. Well, yeah, I did some of the others too because I lined up showcase rooms and all of that sort of stuff. And so for
and I
like 4
saw one
years.
of your showcases. It was brilliant. I
Yeah,
was
it was.
just blown away by your piano playing, and your
Oh,
talent in general.
oh,
It's
thank you. Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah, it was a lot of work putting those rooms together. I think the last time I put one of those showcase rooms together, I felt I had gotten a main showcase on the main stage as well. That's all
Hmm.
by, audition and I felt like my main showcase suffered because I was running a room and I had this like concert pianist from Nairobi and come in and he was in my room and the grand piano I had rented was a piece of junk. I mean, it was so horrible. I lost 5 pounds in one weekend, I think, because it was so stressful. And I thought, my personal showcase then suffered. So I thought, I needed to, there's time for everything for it. I guess you realize. Anyway, this is not about me, it's about you. What about
Both of
performing?
us, really.
Yes, I know, really, because we do have a history there. A lot of things happen in these conferences, and that's why conferences are so wonderful for this. And I know our world has changed, but there's still a huge value in getting together personally and, rooming and getting to know, because you do, stuff happens. So
Yeah.
can you tell our listeners and our audience, because some will be watching the video too, which I hope they do because you're just delightful to look at. What about your shows and what you do that you just absolutely love to do?
It's the audience reaction, just getting their involvement with it and feeling how they feel it and laugh at it and stuff. And that was one thing about the pandemic. I was in the middle of doing a run of my show in Los Angeles, actually 3 shows. That's a run in LA.
Yes, it is in
It's
LA.
called a
You're
run,
right.
right? Um, but I'd gotten up to the last show, and then the last show was canceled. And they were trying to get me to do it on Zoom. And I was like, there's no way I can do the show on Zoom. You have to have that audience there to get the laughs and the feel. There's no way that I can do the show without an audience present. So I'm just, this was a disappointment. But, a lot of the shows were canceled. All my shows were canceled. And so some of them have come back and some of them will come back in a little while.
Yeah, they will. They will. I really believe that there's a hunger for live shows, I feel. And I know a lot of New York is opening up and all of that, but your audiences, a lot of it is in that Midwest too, which is still, I'm sure. But and especially with your book coming out, and I think there'll be even more of a demand for that because it's just this down home fun. Those stories that people want to identify with, and there's a huge audience in that age level too that remember. They want to remember more, and they just need that right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really do. So, and that's interesting how with the audience, the same thing is very true in just music shows. How it's nice, and so it is an adjustment, and it's an adjustment for me as a speaker as well because you feed off of that audience and you feed off that response and you don't always get that but you know what, right now you have to be both. And so I've upped my game and even learning to do that. And you just have to expect that you have to take the time and not rush through it and expect that, imagine what will be happening, during your time and just give it space. So, but it's a definite craft to do everything on Zoom. And I know performers that have just not done it because it's really important to do the live, definitely. So, but I know there'll be other avenues for you. So tell us how you actually prepare for shows, how you are doing, what goes on in your preparation process.
Well, mainly it's just memorizing because there's so many lines and I have all the lines. And I also have a lot of pictures, slides in my show that I have to remember the cues for.
Yes.
So other than that, I know how I'm doing it,
Yes.
but it's a challenge to remember it after not doing it for a while, because I sometimes may not have a booking for a few months. And even a few months later, that's always a challenge for somebody doing a solo show.
I totally get that. Definitely. It is really a challenge. And it makes you kind of keep your chops up and taking things that
Yeah.
will help you keep your chops up because,
Yeah, there's nobody out there but you. And if
no,
you forget something,
yeah.
it's just tough, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
You know?
I have improvised many times and it doesn't really feel good. It doesn't feel like you're doing your best.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's a definite skill, but you still don't feel like you're doing your best. So, well, you've told us a little bit about your book. I was, hoping to leave everybody with that. So I'm so glad that you got to that. But what's kind of, I guess your live performances will be next for you, a big thing of getting those back on track. And
Yeah,
are you writing any?
I have a couple rescheduled now, one in Ohio,
Good.
and the other one, I'm not sure. I can't think offhand, but I do have two or three rescheduled now.
That's really nice. And I'm sure that'll be information will be on your website for
Yeah.
anybody. That's great.
Mhm.
So, um, now you've got this book coming that it's out.
Mhm.
So is there something else that you're writing or you're just looking to get everything your show back on the road? Because really what happens is when you do those live shows, it also sells books, it sells albums, and that's why we do a lot of our live performances as well. I've sold more albums and live performances. People buy a lot of stuff,
Yeah, that's
which
great.
is really interesting to me. But that's what happens a lot of times in live performance. Are there other things that you are writing and working on, Karen?
Well, right now I'm working on stand-up comedy. I'm doing that a lot.
Okay,
And also the audio book, I'm going to be narrating an audio book very shortly. So I'm working on
right.
that at the moment.
Good.
Um, and voiceover and doing voiceover. But I think the stand-up comedy, and also I'm thinking about maybe writing another book, maybe,
Good.
or writing a screenplay. So yeah, I want to get really back into the writing. And you're right, it all feeds into itself.
It does. It's kind of addicting because I never felt like I was really a writer, but I'm constantly thinking about it now. Well, because
Mhm.
I've been a songwriter, of course,
Right.
and musicals and all of that. But as far as books, but now, you think, oh, I could develop that story. I could develop that line or that character and I can make it go deeper. And so that's what you start thinking as an artist. Those are little artist musings and that probably comes through in your acting as well. So, and I don't call myself an actress at all. I would think, you've really gotten into the character. I've learned
Right.
a lot
I
from
do a lot of
actors.
characters in my show.
Yes, I
Um,
would think so. Yeah,
and so I'm taking some of those characters and putting them into stand-up comedy. So I'm
good,
giving them a life outside of Don Knotts, They're still in
good,
the show, but now
good.
they're getting a second life as their own thing.
Oh, that's neat. Putting the characters into the show is, I can really imagine how that works well for you. So it would definitely be something that you want to kind of keep developing and you can kind of keep going deeper philosophically and the whole thing. So within a character. So this has been delightful. Is there
Yeah.
one thing that you want to leave everyone? If you were to make a comment maybe about life or about the business that you're in, I know that's an off the wall. If everybody saw your eyes right now going, oh, do I have to think? No.
Well, I could say to the artists out there, if you're listening, um, don't give up. Right now is a tricky time for actors because of all of the big agencies are kind of conglomerating together and becoming more powerful, and that's
Yes.
leaving some of the smaller people out.
Hmm.
And so it is a little bit of a challenging time for us,
Hmm.
unless you're with a big agency who can get you all this packaging and stuff. So that's a challenge. And I would say just keep on writing and creating and do whatever you do and get it out there as much as you can and do the Zooms. I'm going to start doing some Zooms too. And
Good.
just,
Good.
and just enjoy what you're doing as much as you can. And let's just, hope that things will start to be a little more inclusive with us again.
I love the book So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. It's just hone your craft, keep honing your craft. And the biggest downfall, people give up. They give up too early. and, keep at it and keep, getting better. You can learn a lot as well from doing Zoom and doing streaming and all of that. It's a big learning curve, and I've kind of pushed myself, even though I'm kind of a techie. But I've definitely grown because when doing some different platforms, oh my goodness, I've just, everything connecting and not working right. And
to me, you are the perfect example of somebody who has pushed themselves to the limit with all that you have done. The plays you've written, the musicals you've written, and all the other things that you do. You're really amazing.
It's just one foot in front of the other. And you have to go back, though, and make sure your links are working, everything else. It's constant.
It is constant.
When you create a lot of product, you've got a lot to keep up. It's like having children. So, but it's a joy as well. And when you see people that have downloaded your materials and all of that. So it is an absolute joy because it's going to bring them joy and other people joy. So that's important. So Karen, this has been so delightful.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's just so much fun to keep in contact. And I only bring in one guest a month, and so you are.
Okay.
Yes, and it's otherwise I either speak on my podcast, or my husband and I come in once a month, which is really fun. I have to drag him in. He has to put a nice shirt on. So. She's in a full sweat by the time we're done because I never turn on the air conditioner. So there's a little tidbit for anybody that's listening. So next week, I am speaking on how joy and happiness fosters longevity. Oh, we all want to know that. So you need to have joy and happiness and to laugh and read Karen's book, of course. That will make you laugh, I'm sure. But all of that is a great part. You can find me anywhere on womenathalftime.com, goalsforyourlife.com, DeborahJohnsonSpeaker.com, DJ Works. Yes, I do have a lot of people will go to the music first, DJWorksMusic.com. They always go, oh, what have you done music? Well, it's all there. So anyway, but thank you again, Karen. All of your links, KarenKnotts.com will put into the show notes that I write an article with every single one of these shows as well, which is a joy. It's a little extra work, but it's a joy, and also putting out the video so they can see your beautiful face. So, and thank you so much for being with me. And for our audience, I will see you next time, and bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.